Hi everyone, today I'm going to be walking you through the Legion Mage Tower Challenge for healers specifically, updated for Dragonflight patch 10.0.5. I do just want to preface this video by saying sorry for the stuttery footage in the background. This clip of the Mage Tower was actually taken from one of my live streams, and I live stream on a Powerline adapter, so I do apologize for if the image ever freezes for a couple of seconds. Now I did the Healer Mage Tower Challenge as a Resto Druid, so I will show you the specific talent loadouts I used for various stages and talk you through the abilities I'm using and why, but also hopefully no matter which healer spec you choose to do the Mage Tower on, there is some helpful tips in here for you. So the Healer Mage Tower Challenge consists of 5 different stages, and often between each of those phases you'll find time to sit down and rebuff if you need to, you'll find time to go back into your talents if you need to, and I would absolutely recommend that you take advantage of those breaks in between to kind of optimize your setup for each stage, because different stages will require different things of you basically. Specifically for stage 1 of the Healer Mage Tower Challenge, you need to be managing crowd control and movement most specifically. So with that in mind, the main things to note here is to spec into Cyclone. Cyclone is a fantastic ability to use against the Risen soldiers who do the Blade Dance. If you use a Cyclone on one of the soldiers after they finish the Blade Dance cast and start channeling it, it will interrupt the cast and they won't recast it afterwards. So this is just a really helpful tool to have if you need to catch up on healing for a couple of seconds, because you basically just put one of the ads into timeout for 6 seconds. It's fantastic. The other things in phase 1 that you need is Typhoon, because again you need some kind of CC. As a Resto Druid we don't really have a flat interrupt like a Solar Beam or something, so Typhoon acting as a knockback works just as well. Similarly to Incap Roar. I would recommend Incap Roar over Mighty Bash, because Incap Roar is an AoE disorient, whereas Mighty Bash is a stun and it only stuns one target. I did also just want to mention that I didn't use any specific time walking gear or gems or enchants or any consumables or anything for this challenge. I just used my regular Dragonflight set, so my Dragonflight gear, including my tier set, which before you ask, tier sets are deactivated for the Mage Tower, so my Dragonflight tier set did not work, but nonetheless I got good stats from it. I have my Dragonflight trinkets. The Chill Globe from the raid is very handy just for some extra damage or some mana. You can look into getting some time walking specific gear, like any kind of Siege of Orgrimmar sets with the 3 gem slots on them. There are some great pieces from Hellfire Citadel. I believe there's also some old crafted gear that can be really useful too, but I will say I managed this with the gear set I had just from playing the game normally, and it was actually totally doable, so don't stress too much. It doesn't have to be night and day, the difference between time walking sets and not. This is going to kind of come into play more so if you have a max level under geared character. Then you might want to look into getting either some endgame gear in Dragonflight or running some old raids and old dungeons and stuff to get some time walking sets. So when you phase into the instance, it starts immediately. There's a little bit of roleplay before the ads engage, but you start at phase 1, you have your 3 NPC party members, they're controlled by computers, and it's your job as the healer to keep them all alive, while also being responsible for pretty much all of the CC and all of the movement in this phase. So you start with the first wave of ads, which in this case is just 1 Risen Arbalist. The biggest ability with the Arbalist is the Mana Sting, so they will teleport to a random part of the platform and aim the Mana Sting at you. If it hits you, it will deal some damage and chunk your mana. You will just lose all of your mana, basically immediately. So you need to move behind Jared, like this, as you can see. Jared then eats the Mana Sting for me, or technically Callie did at this point because she also stood in the way. Any of these NPCs can soak it for you, but I would recommend making sure that Jared is the one to do so because he has the most health. But other than that, the Risen Arbalist doesn't really do anything of note. She just shoots the rest of your group, giving you some healing to do. Once the Arbalist is down, the second wave engages, which is a Risen Mage and an Arbalist. So now you've got two people to deal with. The Mage is by far your priority in this phase, because the Mage will continually blast Arcane Blitz at any one of your party. And each time they do so, they get a stacking damage done buff. So each time a successful cast goes off, they deal more damage. So you need to be CCing it as much as possible, interrupting as much as possible, and otherwise just priority killing it. The damage hasn't racked up just yet in this phase. We're going to start with wave 3, seeing some more damage, because we're going to start having to deal with some soldiers. Soldiers are probably the most difficult to deal with because of their Blade Dance mechanic and also their Fixate mechanic. They just have more to deal with. So here you can see the Corrupted Risen Soldier has Knife Danced 3 times in a row. Now, I could have dealt with this a lot better had I remembered if you interrupt the cast after it's finished and they start channeling the Knife Dance, they don't recast it again. So I just wasted Typhoon, Incat Roar, and Cyclone, although you can use Cyclone whenever you want, because if I'd Typhooned after the cast had finished, the soldier wouldn't have recasted again. So instead you see here I've kind of panicked because the Knife Dance is going to do heavy AoE damage to the whole group, me included, and it's a lot to deal with on top of the Corrupted Mage just free casting. So I've put the soldier in a Cyclone for 6 seconds so that I can catch up. So then immediately after the Cyclone, the soldier is going to fixate you. The soldiers only ever fixate the player, so you need to make sure that you're positioned correctly so that you have enough time to run away from the soldier. So being at a good distance to start with is obviously helpful. You can use Ursol's Vortex for this, you could root them if you like, you could use like a movement speed ability if you are in a sticky situation, so maybe you'd like to spec into Tiger Dash if you're not used to Wild Charge, and if you do have Stampeding Roar, that's also a great backup. So wave 4 is by far probably the most deadly. You have 2 soldiers at once and a Risen Mage. So although the soldiers probably deal the most damage by far, the Mage has less health, so getting it down first is probably the best option. Here is a great time for a cooldown AoE heal, so I just use Tranquility. Both these Knife Dances are going off at once, so I've Cycloned one to stop that from happening, and you can heal through the other. Now we need to run away from 2 Fixates. This time I just decided to swap into Bear Form and Frenzied Regen, and hopefully one of the soldiers should go down now. This is kind of the wave where panic will set in, so just try and stay calm, remember your positioning, keep an eye on health frames, and be ready to CC. So keep track of your Typhoon cooldown, keep track of your Incat Roar cooldown, and Cyclone if you absolutely need to. Don't be afraid to Cyclone. It's alright that the encounter can take a bit longer if it means that you're going to save yourself from having to start all over again. It's not like a polymorph where the ad is going to regen health while they're in Cyclone. They just get incapacitated for 6 seconds and you get to top up basically. So as you saw there, I actually got Granny Marl to soak my Mana Sting because I was too far away from Jared. That is not a very ideal thing to do because Granny Marl takes a lot of damage. She has much less health. So you do want to aim it for Jared like I have done here. But the main thing with the Mana Sting is to just anticipate it, be ready for the cast, and dispel it immediately. There is no need to hold on to your dispel. You'll have it for every single Mana Sting, and there's nothing else in the entire instance that you have to dispel. So keep your dispel at the ready, because the longer you leave it on whoever it's hit, it will deal damage. So it's just an extra thing to have to care about. I almost die here to the soldier who is enraged. I also get hit by a Mana Sting. You can see that I'm panicking. The main thing here is just survival at this phase. We literally just have 2 ads left and they're both dead pretty much. So we got through it. Once you've got the Arbalest left, there's like nothing to do. Now, before you run inside and get to kind of ahead of yourself, stay outside for a little while. Just regen your mana, rebuff if you need to, and make sure you spec into your new talents. So once phase 1 is finished and you have time to revise your talents, I would recommend now swapping out of Cyclone because you shouldn't really need it for the rest of the stages. So with that in mind, probably I would just put an extra point into Lycara's teachings. The only other thing I could think to maybe do instead is Well-Honed Instincts, but this might come back to haunt you in the final stage of the challenge, so it's up to you really, but this is just going to give you flat secondary stats based on the form that you're currently in, so it's kind of hard to argue with that. Phase 2, like I said, starts when you run into this little chamber. The rest of your group are going to get abducted and it's just you that you have to deal with, so at least you don't have anyone else you have to heal in this phase. This is pretty much entirely damage. So in this first room, you have a room full of flickering eyes that are going to slowly move in towards you, and they're pulsing AoE damage, so the closer you stand to one, the more damage you're going to take. You need to kill one by one, so I'm not even dotting the other ones just yet, because each time one dies, they explode for a huge amount of damage, and you need time to heal yourself in between, like you can see. So here we have it. We have 3 left. Like I said, I'm only dotting one at a time, although my Sunfire did splash. And as you can see, it deals over half my HP pretty much every time one explodes. So just keep yourself topped up. You have plenty of time to do this. And now you're ready to move straight on to the next room. Bear in mind, you do have 5 minutes to get through stage 3, and that involves this room that we are in right now, plus the room that we've just pulled these guys from, the stairs after that room, and then one final room. So you have like 4 rooms to deal with. But just stay calm, you do have plenty of time. Those guys I just pulled together, I dotted them all, and then I convoked. The Felspite Dominator looks very scary, but does absolutely no damage, so don't worry about him. I just dot these orbs that are flying around to deactivate them, and now we're opening the door. Priority number 1 when you get through the door is to dispel the friendly NPC that is feared, because if you run into them, they will fear you as well. Now you have 3 adds that you also have to heal up altogether before they turn into hostile mobs that you'd have to kill. So I kind of hotted them all at the same time, because that's what druids are good at, rest of druids, and just sort of let their health tick up all together. The last thing in the stairway is the Arbalist, so I'm just going to face tank the Mana Stings. You can also, I believe, stand behind one of those friendly NPCs that you just healed to make them soak it instead, but if you're quick enough with your Dispel, you're just going to take a bit of damage. And the Mana Sting, like you can see, I didn't actually lose any mana from the Mana Sting because I dispelled it immediately. And like I said, the Risen Arbalist doesn't do anything else of note, so you can just move on up the stairs. That's everything in the stairwell, or this half of the stairwell. Now you unlock the next gateway, and you have a bunch of unstable orbs, so I just Sunfire them, and as you can see, they react to AoE damage, so Sunfire works great here. And I'm taking damage all of a sudden because I've run too close to one. Do be very careful. Even when they're deactivated and not moving around, they can still damage you if you move close enough, so be very careful. The final room looks very scary, but just stay focused. The Dread Corruptor I dotted and then ignored, because at the same time you have the same flickering eyes as you did in room 1. Kill the eyes first, absolutely kill the eyes first, because they are moving towards you. And as you can see, the Dread Corruptor actually isn't doing anything apart from spawning a couple of eye beams that are rotating, and they don't really do much damage, to be honest with you. So I'm just focusing the flickering eyes first, keeping the dots on the Corruptor because we do still have a timer to beat here, but topping myself up in between, and now all we have left is the Corruptor. And now that we've dealt with the eyes, we have room to move around the rest of the room when he spawns the new beams like this. So the eye beams have spawned, I'm moving to a different side of the room so that I'm safe again. Other than that, he just casts Mind Spike and doesn't really do anything important. As you can see, if you've been watching my health bar, fighting him, he doesn't do very much, so you can just stay calm and focus on damage here. And as you can see, we are left with over a minute left on the timer. Once you killed everything, that's when the phase ends, so we're now going into stage 4. And this is again another area where you have time to rebuff and retalent if you need to. This stage starts when you open the gate that goes up into the stairs into the final room. So do everything you need to before then, you have all the time in the world. But when you're ready, we're going to move up into the final room for stage 4. So in stage 4, your friendly NPC guys that you have to keep alive as a healer will turn on each other, so they start dealing damage to each other. Meanwhile, Edris is going to spawn in 3 ghosts at a time that are going to slowly move in towards him. Each time a ghost successfully reaches him, he will spawn an ad before he spawns himself. So you're just going to give yourself more work to do. The way to stop them from reaching the boss is to heal them from 0 to full. So you have to keep your party members alive, which I'm just throwing an efflorescence under them while they're all attacking each other, but your main focus here are the ghosts. So as a Resto Druid, I'm kind of hotting them all together to kind of keep them all ticking up. I let him soak that one ad who you kind of just missed because my stream froze. And in between, you have time to top up your party before the next wave. I believe there's 3 waves of ghosts. We'll see. This is the second one. Here I think I Convoke because I've left it too late and I don't have enough. But Convoke actually does kind of polish this off for us. So all 3 of these ghosts get healed to full and we don't have to deal with them. As you can see, the party members aren't actually taking that much damage, so don't worry about them too much. And now I think I might Tranquility this one, if I remember correctly. Doesn't look like I do actually. We're just going to hard heal these guys. Okay, he did soak 1 extra ghost, so we're going to have 2 ads to deal with. So there's 4 waves of ghosts. Now I'm going to Tranquility. Tranquility is an amazing ability to use, same as if you were like a priest, a divine hymn, or what else is there? Any of your burst heals, basically. Alright, so after the final wave of ghosts, you get into the final stage, which, since I let 2 of the ghosts get absorbed by the boss, he's going to engage those 2 mobs first before we actually fight the final boss. Unfortunately for us, we have 2 soldiers who were soaked, so we have to deal with 2 blade dances, 2 fixates, all that good stuff, unfortunately. So you have a couple of seconds before they actually engage, and here we go. Apologies for the stuttering. Stay calm. Get ready for the cast to finish, and then CC, like that. So as you can see, they didn't recast after I incap ruled them. Now they're both fixating me, and I just face tanked it at this point because, like I said, I was YOLOing. You should be kiting it as much as you can. An Ursul's Vortex or a Mass Root would have come in very handy there. But somehow in this phase, these ghosts weren't doing as much damage as the phase 1 ones, so I just let them do what they wanted. And as you can see, one's gone down very easily. This one's about to go down as well. And now we have the final boss. The key thing here is to stick to the outside of the room, because the boss is going to jump to you like this and leave a big fell puddle. And you don't want to clutter up the room too early, so you want to conserve as much space as possible. Just stick to the outer edge and keep as close to the previous pool as possible. The other important thing as the healer is to make sure you keep yourself as much as possible at 50% or so health, because he will put a dot on you and only you. It's called Ignite Soul, which will explode for AoE damage to your whole group based on how much health you currently have. So if you're at 100% health, that bomb is going to do significant damage to your whole group, which could potentially kill one of them, but it's just going to make you panic and give you more stuff to deal with than you actually need to. Other than that, this is all this phase consists of. You just have to, like you can see, deal some damage to yourself by standing in the puddle, let yourself take some damage. Like you can see, my health should kind of stay never at full, basically. It should be where it is now, but as a druid, it's kind of hard not to off-heal yourself because I'm going to Convoke in a couple of seconds here, and Convoke will use some healing abilities. But you can deal damage to him, you know, while you're healing yourself in the group. The puddles themselves don't deal damage to your party, so you actually don't have to worry about that. They just deal damage to you. And the last cool thing is, if you really struggle in this last phase, you can die and your party can finish the phase for you. As long as none of your 3 NPCs die, the boss could get killed by them and you will win the instance. Like, you can die and it's totally fine. So as you can see, we've got the whole way around the edge of the room. So the final puddle is going to splash in here and I'm going to have to move inwards. But luckily the boss is very nearly dead. So I'm just going to carry on staying focused, healing the rest of the group, dealing as much damage as I can, and that's pretty much it, basically. He's going to go down here. There we have it. That is every stage of the Healer Mage Tower Challenge, updated for Dragonflight. I hope this video helped you. If you have any questions about any part of this scenario, be sure to comment it down below and I'll do my very best to help you. Also, do be sure to subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more from me. I'm going to try my best to cover every single Mage Tower challenge, so the 7 different challenges for the different specs. So if you'd like to see that, be sure to stick around, and other than that, thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day and I hope to see you again very soon. Bye!